No, you were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then NPM.
Yeah, NPM is different.
Okay, so when you type in npm init, you're gonna see this blob of text come up on the screen. We're just gonna hit enter through all of these. I'll name mine app.js right here. You can name it index.js if you want.
You say MGM?
npm.
NPN.
NPM.
This is it right here. Can you see that?
There's a node package manager.
NPN. Okay.
No.
So the only thing you named was the entry point.
Yeah, I just called it app.js.
Alright.
And then for author, you can just put your name in here.
Can you change that? I skipped through.
Yeah, you can change it.
Okay.
And nothing for that.
Okay.
You go to author. Put your name.
So after you go through this prompt, just go ahead and open up this directory inside of VS Code. So from within VS Code, just go to open folder, and wherever you save that directory to, just open that. Yeah, so by running npm init, we generated this package.json file, and from here you can change any of the information that was asked in those prompts originally.
So you did a folder open where we save that workshop repository. Gotcha.
A question, can it always be edited even though we just have internet?
Yes, you can.
Hey Nick, is there anything special to do to install Git on Macs?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not that.
Which one do you use?
Yeah, that's right. I'll just keep going through that with you, and it should just install the CLI.
It wasn't working for a lot of people. So
Okay, if you go to your terminal and type in git, it should come up with some.
it's working too.
Okay, how do you personalize it?
Okay, so if you go to your applications folder. Okay, now go to scroll down to the bottom, click on utilities, and click on terminal. It's on the bottom left. Yeah, there you go.
Package.json, we got that from your
The package.json was generated when you were in npm init.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's Git.
npm init.
Alright.
So I can go back.
Alright, so that's all your commands. If you just go and you make a new
So from within that directory, your project directory, just run npm init.
That's npm-dir.
Is it okay? Right now, no?
Yeah, actually, hit dir first. It's directory. And enter. I don't know where this is. How that.
Yeah, can you pull up my repository on it?
Anyone else haven't got to this part yet?
You know, Mac.
Sister.
You good? Oh yeah.
You should be able to find your directory, but I'm not sure.
Okay, guys, we're gonna continue now. So from this point, and from within VS Code, you can click on this icon on the top left. So you create a new file. I'm gonna name the file app.js. So this file will be the entry point to our application. Okay, so we're using NodeJS in order to access the libraries that we need for this API. We're going to need to install a few packages from the package manager. So I'm going to go ahead and run in my terminal npm install.
Quick question, what was the name of the file you just made in VS Code?
App.js. Yeah, app.js.
Oh, okay.
I would Google how to.
Yeah, I'm Googling it.
Okay, so we're going to install 3 packages into our project. We're going to install body parser. And I'll explain what all these packages do as we go.
Could you like shift it over a little bit or zoom out? Does it take a taste?
Gotcha.
It's just that window specifically.
No, better. It's cutting off. It's going to.
Yeah, that's fine.
There, actually.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so we're gonna run npm install body parser.
I'm fine. I'm way behind everybody else. I'm just gonna see what this screenshot what it does.
We're gonna install Express
Wait, what?
Probably should have this,
and MongoDB.
Oh, so it's you can do 3 installations in one line.
Yes, you can.
Alright, because I hit enter already, so all I have to do in my case now would be npm install Express and then MongoDB, and that should.
Yes.
So, I have MongoDB, I don't have to do that. Or do we have to do that still? Or is that installing it inside? So?
That's installing the SDK for NodeJS.
Oh.
Okay, so when you have this line, just hit enter. Okay, and after you install those, if you open up your package.json, you'll see body parser, Express, and MongoDB under dependencies now, just to make sure you have everything.
So your app.js is the index.js?
Yes.
Are we supposed to have the package lock .json? Because we are.
If you don't have it, it doesn't matter up to this point.
Okay. Shit, I did everything.
Okay. So, one last step before we start actually coding. You might remember from last week, we added a file called getignore to our project. So if you go to Google and just type in node getignore, it should be the first selection on Google. This file omits a lot of files that we don't need in our Node project repository. So you can find that getignore right here on GitHub. Yes.
The dependencies didn't show up in the package.
I'm gonna have to exit out.
Exit out.
Okay, Yeah. Once you have that copied, go back over to your NodeJS project, create a new file, and we're going to name this file .getignore. And we're just going to paste everything in the thing. And then just save. And once you save, you should see this number on the left drop down to 4.
So the getignore thing, is it? I'm on GitHub, and I think I found the guy who has it, but I don't know if this is the right file. It says like receive git /.getignore. It's the right one.
Okay, so go back to Google.
That's not the issue.
Okay. Yeah, so type in Node.js getignore. And getignore is one word.
Alright, let's see. Do I have to remake a new one then, or?
No, it's probably gonna do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna affect.
Awesome, so just copy all of it.
Basically,
And then in here, create a new file. So you can click that blank piece of paper with the plus sign.
so it's
Yeah,
probably
there you
not
go.
gonna show up for add-on.
And then type in .getignore.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and then just paste everything into that file. And then save all. Do file, save all. Yep, there we go. So the number over there dropped
Like I
to
said,
3
I
or
am a
4
fan
answer.
about
Yes.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, did you run npm in your project directory?
Yeah, it's longer than I thought it was.
Well, 17. Well, you got
Okay,
saved
so
Yeah,
if you
command
have
line.
that VS Code,
Go to your command line.
and let's just
Oh,
run
is this going back?
I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out the
VS
dialogue.
Code.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm seeing
Oh,
this
you want me
one.
to?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
It's a command line.
Yeah, this is the command line.
Okay.
It's the interface, command line interface.
Where'd you get
You
yours?
type cd documents
I think we need to open up
Can you
the
say
project.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, capital D.
Okay, so go to file and click on
That's that order up,
Okay, so now you're in your documents. I don't know where that is, but this is where it's going to be saved.
Okay.
So if you type in mk
Okay, so
dir,
Yeah.
so that's the command make directory space. You do
okay, and then over there, just
Had a lot of huge document that runs.
NodeJS workshop, NodeJS
you should have ever done
workshop.
something. All you had to do was just make a website, right?
All right, so now you made that. So now you can use cd change directory to NodeJS workshop.
So
So you're still in documents, right? So you make the directory. It's that directory is in documents wherever your documents
so
are.
now you should
Yeah, so cd is change directory.
Very simple.
And then you type
Yeah, I also
NodeJS
use
workshop.
something with using projects, which actually help. Yeah, it parses.
Alright, so now you're inside that workshop. Alright, and if you type in git
add.js file.
space init, init, yep. Alright, so now you initialize it as an empty Git repository. So this is where you're going to connect to a remote repository. So on GitHub, that's where you would connect to it.
Okay.
Do you have a GitHub account?
Yeah, I just made that one.
Okay, so
So now I can go back to Git.
sorry.
Now I can just go back to GitHub.
No, for now, stay here. Do you have NodeJS installed?
I did, but I couldn't open it.
That's fine.
Package
Try
JSON.
npm. So it's Node Package Manager space.
Okay,
And
so
then-
I think you missed one step, so go back to your terminal
Yeah.
and run
So now it's going to initialize it as a node or a JSON like directory. So you can enter,
npm install
so author, and then you put your name.
body parser with a space express space MongoDB. There you go.
Alright, so now you have it as there's your Git repository, like a local Git repository, and a node workspace. And now you're still in there.
File save. You might need a reopen.
Or assignment two?
Oh, no, no,
Not sure about that.
Oh, okay.
I was actually more focused.
So do
Oh, that's fine. I would think you would put up the answer.
npm notepad
Okay, maybe you weren't inside of the
notepad
root directory.
and yep.
I made a thing called this.
Body.
Call this inside there. I said NodeJS workshop, and then that's why it's
Double slash
yeah,
notepad.
sure.
On VS Code.
Yeah,
It's connected.
Just to make sure, this will make it easier. Go down to the bottom of the window, and you should be able to pull out.
Parser,
Run the same command right there.
space,
That should definitely
Yeah,
work.
it's so bad with mine was big.
npm install.
space,
Yeah, npm install body parser,
MongoDB,
MongoDB.
Extra credit?
MongoDB,
Oh,
enter.
I failed at that.
Alright, so now,
I think I'm gonna make green.
Okay, guys, we're gonna continue now.
okay, it should be in there now. Do you have Visual Studio installed? Open it up.
Click on that.
Go open folder.
Okay, so we're gonna start off by using the Express library that we just installed.
Okay.
So we're gonna type in const express
Hit your package.
require express. Now, as I'm coding, if you guys are wondering where I learned to actually code the line I just put, if you guys go up to npm.com
It didn't
or
install, so you should
npmjs.com,
do this.
this is where we're actually getting all these packages from. So if I type in express, it's the first one, and here's the code that I'm typing right now. These are the documentations for writing code in Express. So everything I'm about to show you, I got from this page. And the same goes for body parser. If I can find it. Yeah, body parser
Oh, npm install.
and MongoDB. So all the documentation for all these packages
No, that
are on the site.
Yeah. I'll go back in. Sorry.
So if you guys want to go back after this workshop and
Okay.
add something to this project,
So now
you guys
back
can
up
reference
after that.
this documentation from NPM.
Yeah, you have to type in install in between space.
Alright, so going back, we're going to start out by initializing Express. And Express is a framework that allows us to run an HTTP server. We're going to need that for our web API. Okay, so to start out, we're going to assign Express to a variable called app. Can everyone see this? Do I need to zoom in? Go.
I'm not sure why.
I'll just- Okay, and just to start off, we're going to run app.listen. I'm going to run mine on 9,000.
Looks like
I'll do 9,001. That way I can make sure it's over 9,000.
There you go.
I'll follow along as they fix it.
So the second parameter in the listen function, we can pass it a callback function, and we can tell it to print out some kind of line to just let us know that the server actually started. And when you guys finish typing that, if you pull up your terminal at the bottom here and run node.app.js, or if you named your file index.js, it would be node index.js. If you run that, you should see whatever you put inside of this
You
print
can
statement
find
right
it
here.
now.
And that just means that the server's working.
Next one. The one to the left. Go down. Up. Good.
Did anybody not get that?
Last three ends.
Oh, it's just node and then either app.js or index.js.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then all the way up to
Oh,
index.js.
I got my book down, man.
You got it?
Yeah, see?
So I'm all caught up, but just about the whole package log file thing, I noticed in the terminal so there's one problem. There's a problem
No,
with
nobody cares about
loading
you got that much.
this site here. He told me to put it
What else is
in NPM.
Yeah, it looks like NPM installed everywhere.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
Her
I did the NPM
packages
install
won't
stuff.
install.
Oh, did it work?
I couldn't find
I
them.
think it worked because it says.
I'm trying to walk her through it.
Package.json. Maybe exit that here. Open it again. I mean, just this. That's weird.
I noticed that I had the error here. It was like some problem, so it wasn't a problem. And that's what I said. And it happened after I tried to do the NPM install.
Okay,
I had NPM installed, so that's there.
Okay, try running the same command without body parsing. So run npm install express and MongoDB.
So without it?
I'll do that and do the whole install.
Yeah, and then just type in the word install. So npm
It
install.
did successfully.
That's what
Yeah, just type it in right there. You don't have to type it in. npm install.
Package lock.json doesn't
And then
get
you should
updated.
enter.
And then this doesn't get updated.
Okay, awesome.
Like the server works.
Body parser is a minimal thing. I think there's a network error happening.
Nick, is the package lock file imported?
It's not important. Usually I throw it away. So
Like,
don't worry about
even this package JSON doesn't show the
Go to
packages.
your package.json.
Yeah, no, like,
Actually,
Like,
Google.
he installed them, and it was successful.
after I installed them, it told me to
Yeah,
just
look
run all in
up
the terminal.
git ignore.
Created a problem here, and then it said like package.json, problems loading reference at whatever site.
This one.
I mean, because maybe it's the terminal that I'm in, because it's in Bash. They're
No, that should be working. Try I know someone was having a networking error with body parser. Try running npm install express MongoDB. See if that works.
I think you said some type of express.
Probably just keep up with y'all.
Do node. And then, no, node get ignore. Get ignore one word.
I don't know. Yeah, you should know what the problem that keeps doing this all.
Top.
Off the top of my head, I'm just
Alright, so everything is here from
you
one to
can-
the end of the
If
file.
you go
Copy.
to my GitHub repository, you can follow along. I already wrote this program.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, everything's in there. So the app.js has all the code if you want to still follow it.
Can I just get the file and put it inside?
Yeah, you can. If you want to put in the repository and just go from there, you can.
Alright, so make a new file. Node.js. Go to Node.js workshop. It's a new file. Yep, that's the new file. Name it dot get ignore, one word.
You should be able to just run it.
Alright, so you see how that's the 475?
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
you want to get rid of those, so if you go into get ignore and paste that code, save it. You can control S. Alright, so it went down to 4. That's basically all that does.
Okay.
Go to package.json, or I'm sorry, index.js. Alright, and you're going to type in that.
the top one?
Yep, Initializing Express equals all that.
Where did you learn all this?
I'm sorry?
Where did you learn all this?
Just practice.
Are you becoming
No, this is my first semester I've come here, but I've had to hack through learning it through semesters, so.
what year are you in?
Technically like a junior, senior.
Yeah, just put some files.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I just run everything that you added. That works.
Yes.
Base.
Alright guys, I'm gonna continue now.
Save it.
Okay, so we're gonna make a route on this API that we can hit from our browser. So we can see it's working from the terminal, but we want to actually hit it from our browser. So to do that, we're gonna make a get route.
And go to your command line.
So we're gonna be we're writing a REST API, and REST follows.
This guy.
We're gonna be using get, patch, delete, and post. A get route is for retrieving information from an API.
Alright.
So this will be our base route for the API. So it'll be slash.
Index.js. Is going to be calling that file. And see, now it works. So that's what you did there.
I'm just gonna type this out and then explain it.
Usually make more files.
Yes.
Okay. You have anything with like YouTube tutorials or like
I could.
okay. Yeah, probably we could post them on the Facebook feed.
Okay, so what I just did, I wrote a route that we can hit in our browser. And when we go to our browser, it will say on the screen, welcome to the NASA Missions API. So I'm going to let you guys catch up and copy this, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like in our browser.
Can you explain that to app bucket again?
Yeah, so I did app.get. So we're following REST. And in REST, a GET request retrieves information from the API.
Okay.
So in this case, all we're doing, we're just sending back a JSON with a message in it.
And where's the API at?
This is the API.
The whole, okay.
Yep.
Like if you were trying to run it right now, would it do anything or not really?
Yeah, I'm about to say. Alright, so if you guys go over to your browser now, you can see that the server is running on port 9000. So if you go to your browser and type in localhost :9000, and then I did backslash over. So if you put a backslash, it will. Okay, you guys will need to restart your server with the save changes in it.
You can just restart it. So next Control C to close it out, and then you just write in Node.
And when you open it up in your browser, you should see a similar message to this.
And
So
is
take it
that
out.
the JSON file or what file is this? It's the app.js?
It's outside of app.list.
Let me come around.
Wait, all this?
No, just the
JSON.
Get.
So that's good.
Okay, so you have the server running.
Yeah.
So if you go to localhost 9000,
put that before
okay,
app.list.
:9000.
Before?
So out here, see
Okay, and then
app.list.
just hit
put
enter.
before it.
Oh, that's where your server's
If
running.
you space it out a little better, it'll be easier to see. So after it comes,
Can you guys see this on your screen?
okay, and
So whatever you made the server.
then Const Express can go.
So localhost.
I just did refresh on mine, and all I got is
Const Express requires
Is that after school?
that's out. You already have it.
Oh, okay.
So inside the console.log is all it should be there.
What do you have in your phone?
see, I made a
This is
joke
all
with
it should
mine,
be
and I
inside
put mine on
this?
9000.
Console.log.
Make that.
So you can take Const Express out.
Did you have, did you have this part? Or?
Alright, so app.listen, that all it's doing is saying that it's launched if it's listening to 9000. So you have app.get, and then you can finish that going.
Your file saves you have it.
JSON, parentheses, bracket, message, colon, welcome to the NASA mission. Colon. Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's not gonna matter.
Space.
Control C.
You need one more.
Not type in
You need this here. The brackets and the close brackets.
This here.
That's you need two of them.
Oh, I didn't open it. Two brackets.
So at the end, hit enter. Hit the
Close one.
close bracket and
Oh,
then
because
close parentheses. Yeah.
space.
That's that one. Save it. Tell me something. Oh, there it is. That's why.
these things.
Yeah.
You gotta save
But when you have it, Alright, so if you go back to your command line, this is your command line. So when you did this, you were calling that file. It's basically starting your server. Now it's still running. You hit Control C or Command C. It'll stop it.
Mine actually did switch to
Okay, yeah, it's control C.
Alright, so now run that again, the node index.js. So hit up. Now it's running again. Alright, now if you go to your browser, new tab, type localhost, colon.
I think your main issue is really like if you put in a order number, you can have a source.
Okay, guys, we're gonna make another endpoint on the API now.
Front slash. Yeah.
Okay, so we need to connect MongoDB to this API so it can actually save data and manipulate data.
Is this a
So I created a Mongo database on MLab.
Put your VS Code.
MongoDB is a non-relational database. It's not like SQL. It's not table-based. So I created a database called NASA Missions. And the reason you guys couldn't create a MongoDB database today on your own, MLab is having some weird problem today with logging in. So I was already logged in. I'm lucky. So if you guys, I'm gonna have to zoom in here. Actually, better yet, if you go back over to my GitHub repository and click on app.js, the connection string for the database is saved in here. So you guys can go ahead and just copy this. But, yeah.
Under connection to URL or connection URL, where it says const URL.
So does ordering matter really in the file, like where everything is at, or?
Not exactly.
He's supposed to do the connection with URL.
The first
Yeah, but
app
you can do the browser.
creating your API.
Oh,
You
yeah.
try to localhost again.
So I got this part, but what did I do prior?
Okay, so we made API route.
Nice.
So,
Before you add that.
Here you're, okay. VS Code. So you have JSON. It's JSON. JSON. Save. You might have to restart your server.
Exit out.
Memo. Control C.
Oh, here, PJ. You can use this.
Node. Index.js. Index.
You have to install Mongo client as well.
Alright, so your server's running through your browser. Localhost.
I mean, this has that Mongo client on that.
Colon. Colon. So that's basically, there you go. So what this is
okay,
it's,
were you guys able to find the connection string in my GitHub repo?
go to this GitHub.
Alright. So, back in your project, just go ahead and paste this line
What was in
into your app.
VISAL. One. Yep. Oh, sorry, it's N the cell one.
M?
NVISAL. One.
Alright, so now we're going to work on actually using this connection string to connect to MongoDB. So, to do that, we're going to be using the package that we installed at the beginning. That was called MongoDB.
Yeah, so,
Oh, you can do it.
yeah.
I install that now.
Go back to repositories.
Okay. Alright, so if you go to npm and you're looking at the MongoDB docs,
Copy that. And put
we're going to scroll down and figure out how to actually connect our app to MongoDB. So scrolling all the way down,
yeah, that's not.
there's a little section, there's a snippet of code in here that says connect to MongoDB, and we're going to use this.
Hey, what did you search in that? Just Google npm space MongoDB.
Okay. So in order to use the MongoDB library that we installed, we need to reference it up here. So I'm going to import Mongo client.
Now, does that have to be exactly at the top of the app? Or?
No, it doesn't, but it's good practice to do all of your imports at the top of the app.
Alright.
Alright, so we're going to import this from MongoDB. And we're importing the client specifically. That's what we need for the connection. Okay, and then one more thing. We have the URL. We also need the name of the database. And if I go back over to MLab, the name of the database is mass emissions. Okay, so now we're actually going to use the Mongo client to make a connection. So we're going to run mongo client.connect. And the first parameter for this function, we can see it, is the URI, which is the connection string that you just copy and pasted. So you can just type in URL right here. And then the second parameter is a callback function. What's a callback function? So in JavaScript, a callback function is essentially a function that will execute after the called function executes. So I'll demonstrate. So this is kind of a function within a function. So when we run this, we're expecting the callback function to either give us an error or the client. So we want to check if it actually gave us an error or not. So we're going to have an if statement here. So if error exists, we just want to console log the error so we know what it is. And console log in JavaScript is essentially a print statement. And if there is no error, then we want to assign the client that we got back to the database. If you guys get lost at any point during this, all the code for this app is in the repository. Okay, and one last thing. So we're establishing a connection, but the client, which is the connection itself, is only available within the scope of this callback function. And that presents a problem to us because our routes are outside of the callback function. So they can't actually access the database right now. So to fix that, I'm going to move the routes inside of the callback function.
So we put an app gap and app listing into that, right?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to restart my server now and make sure everything's still working.
Should have close parentheses.
Okay. To stop your server on Mac, it is Control-C inside of the terminal. What is it on
Those
Windows?
two app.get.
Same thing on Windows.
Take it. All of those.
and then just run app or node app.js again.
Got it.
So at this point, if your
inside,
server still
app
launches and you still see
Actually-
NASA server, that means that you are connected to MongoDB.
I am not.
Now before then,
Mm-hmm.
you want to type
Oh, let me see.
the constant
Mongo.
equals client after you.
Jump on us, I guess I'm safe.
Required. URL. Endpoint. .connect. URL. Earth.
Okay, so I'll let you guys finish copying this, but since we're all using the database that I created, the database is already populated with some data, so we'll be using that data.
I got a depreciation warning.
That's okay, it's just a warning. It happens a lot. MongoDB is frequently upgrading.
Something with my Mongo client.connect. I seem to be having some kind of. It's like cannot read property connect undefined.
It didn't actually run. Unless it is here.
Did you get the same way?
That's a syntax error. Mongo client.
Like I used
What line is that under?
14. And I have Mongo
Well,
client.
I've got syntax. It just says undefined.
Oh, I know what it is. I forgot the colon right here.
That's funny. I think my app listing like my important quotes and still works.
Let's
I don't think a semicolon's gonna fix it.
I don't think so either, but.
Yeah, it's a function problem.
Like it had to be.
Oh, there's another one. Another one. I am.
I'll learn something new.
But it's saying yours is where to connect to. Line 14?
Okay, I said this port is over 9,000. That's okay.
Oh, okay, that's clever. That's funny. Okay, I didn't know you were gonna do that for your console.
Let me see.
Yeah, try saving your changes.
It's already connected.
No, just I don't really care for much that much, but you know, the fact that you gave us that geo, it's just freaking awesome.
The C line is capital. Right here.
Oh,
So you're
that's what
importing
it
those.
is.
The guy that voices Vegeta also does frequently beyond stuff.
I knew about Big Rob, I didn't know.
Yep, you're good.
There you go.
Thank God.
Yeah, it could be something that's like small as that can mess up everything. There's like a million lines of your programs.
I'm like, bro, I know I'm here.
Okay, guys. Since we're connected to MongoDB now, we're going to make a route that actually uses MongoDB and get some data from our database. So if we go back to MLab, I'll show you. I already populated this database with some JSON documents, and these are pretty much just missions from NASA with some metadata, name, status, purpose of the mission, and cost. So we want to actually get this data. We want to go into our browser, make a request, and we want our API to send us back all these JSON files. So to do that, we're going to create a new GET request. And we're going to call this /missions. The two variables in here, rec and res, these are variables that indicate the request coming in and the result going out of our database. Or our API, not our database.
So is there a difference between like the two app gets?
Yeah, so these are both different routes. When you go to / in the browser, it's going to run this route. And when you go to /missions, it's going to go to this route.
Basically, one's a default route and one's a different.
Okay, so we're going to use our DB variable right here. And MongoDB is made of collections. So collections are essentially kind of like tables. A collection is pretty much a body of JSON files. So this all of these JSON files right here are inside of one collection and that collection is called missions. So we're gonna tell our API to look in the missions collection, and we're gonna run find. So, so you can see right here the find function takes a query, but the cool thing is if we don't give it any query, it will just return everything, and that's a good start. So we want to run find, and then we want it to return us an array. So we can run toArray right here. Yes?
Is there a reason why you, I guess, did a new line, indented it, or?
I think it's just easier to read.
Okay, but it's all
if you want to
attached-
keep it all on the same line, you can.
Okay, but it's all just still attached to the missions dot. So we, okay.
Yes, it is. Okay, so inside of the find, or actually inside of the toArray, we can give it a callback function. Here.
Yeah, I'm not actually talking. I'm not.
No, I didn't know about that.
Okay, so this callback function will give us either an error or it will give us all our documents back. The documents are essentially the JSON files that I just showed you. So again, if we get an error, we want to check if we got the error and handle it. So if MongoDB isn't able to connect or there's some other failure that happens internally, we want to let our user know that an error occurred. So right here we can run console.error, and this will give us a stack trace of the error object that MongoDB returned. So it tells us as a developer what went wrong. But we don't want our users to know that we're using MongoDB, and we don't want them to know that an error occurred in MongoDB. So when an error occurs, we can just tell our users that an error occurred without telling them all the specifics of it. So we can return a status 500, and a status 500 means that the server failed. And then we'll return a JSON with a message that says, Houston, we have a problem. So if anything happens with our database that we don't want to happen, this if statement will take care of it for us. Otherwise, if we don't get an error, then we just want to return all of the JSON objects to our user. So we can do res.status, and then 200 indicates a success. These are HTTP codes. And we can send a JSON with doc. Put this inside of an else block. I forgot that.
Does that matter? I mean, I noticed you didn't do it for the first part, it still works fine.
For which part?
Under Mongo client, like if it's Mongo client.connect URL function error client, like the other if blocking is like.
Right. So right here, since we're sending back status codes, this is actually an Express error. So Express won't know what to do if we try to send two status codes back. So if it runs through this if statement and it sends a status, and then it tries to send another one, Express will get confused and thrown error. Res.status doesn't work as a return statement. It doesn't break control of the application. It just continues to flow. So that's why we need the else.
Should it put like a break statement after that second bracket?
Right here?
Not there, below that one.
No, we don't need a break statement.
I know, I mean like below that one. Like just above the active C.
No, we don't. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute to copy this. The login doesn't open. Okay, so I'm gonna save my changes and restart the server to make sure everything is still working. And it is. Alright, so if I head over to my browser now and go to local host 9000, but if I go to /missions, not an okay. I now get back all of the JSON objects that were stored in my database. If you're wondering why mine looks a little different, I have a Google Chrome extension, so I'll turn it off.
What extension was that?
This is called JSON Viewer. So if the extension detects a JSON in the browser, it will just format it for you.
Sure, I'm gonna get that extension.
This is what it looks like without the extension.
Can you go back to the code?
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting cannot get missions.
Cannot get missions.
Yeah.
Try refreshing.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I gotta restart the server.
Okay, so there is an arrow right there.
Yeah, you rushed us. Yeah, I know you did. Actually, go back to the two-array function.
Okay, so it's a collection, not collection.
I had the same error.
Very subtle things. Yeah, now try it. Okay, so
Yep.
DB is not the plan.
Oh, to the mouse code.
Yeah, so you need to
Should I be global or?
so put the app.get inside of the brackets for so okay. Yeah, there you go. So then just cut out app.get and paste it inside of that bracket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that whole function.
Okay.
Here we go. Was that on?
You're closing the whole thing.
Okay. And then delete that app.get now.
Oh, you didn't close it.
Because it has
Okay,
the
so
classes
try
right
With
after this one.
two-array.
After he's doing have a
So,
problem.
two-array.
Yeah, once
This, do
That's
Is it
actually
under-
even cool. I like that extension.
a parentheses semicolon.
The other line? The res dot status line?
No, it's not. Oh, it
Yeah.
is.
Else.
Are you on Windows?
Yeah, semicolon.
Okay, so delete the second curly bracket.
This one?
Yeah.
Escape.
Actually, it's undo though. Save all your changes and restart the file. Okay, so it says docs. Okay, so right here you need to say docs instead of docs.
Yeah. Yep. Doc. Put docs.
There you go. Okay, so
Two-array
save your
function.
changes and restart the server.
Instead of doc, it's docs.
And now we open the site. Ship it over.
Cool. Okay, so get your browser. There you go.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
And then missions.
Then, so after that one,
Any
put
more
a
questions?
parentheses.
Anyone else still in trouble?
Open it or close it?
After the
You have a question?
so after that curly bracket, put a parentheses close. And then before the next one,
What's up?
open,
The JSON file is
Closing it?
no, right next to the other one. On the inside. Yep, close.
9,000. That's what you need your port. 9,000.
Nah, yeah, because my time was already running on 9,000, so it was like
I got you.
on.
Let's see what's going on.
Do you have something else?
Let's see. As you kept running your server, we kept saving and restarting.
Yeah, like it was working too. Just last like when we added that factor.
It's not going to run.
Oh.
So it's just not jumping out your JSON. Let me
See
see.
it. 1, 2, I don't think it's taking your else. Can
One second.
so tab. It might be a tab error. So before find, hit tab. Next line is tab. Next tab. And next tab all the way down.
Let me see what's going on.
I don't think, does it make a difference?
Sometimes it does with syntax.
Should lie right here.
The tabs make a
It's
difference.
just not. It's just giving you an empty string. Or where you are talking about something.
But what if it was function by the other?
You mind if
If
I?
it was function perfectly fine till the definitions.
Hey, Bart.
Like when if it
So,
was
man,
Bart, do you know how to get to turn back up for
Wouldn't be
visual
broken because, well, not this part. Meaning where we're getting that URL
Oh,
from.
okay.
So do me a favor, go back up. Let's see. Return.
Oh wait, I don't got body parser.
You got body parser?
Yeah, body parser. Yes.
That's probably what you need. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, but he got express on this.
And again, body parser. So without body parser, two things. Either you might get that, or you'll get back a bunch of just unreadable text that's not JSON.
Dude, I literally had a copy.
I went to the GitHub repository to read the JSON log files or the package log files, and I just copied and pasted it into my folder. Because for some reason mine wasn't working or giving me the right folders or files, so I just literally had to copy the files straight into them. I got you.
Kind of sucked.
Body parser. Do something. Message release.
I got the database.
It's only. Well, that's not true because I'm not doing anything with body parser.